Slow and steady wins the race, right? Wrong. If that hare hadn't been so arrogant and messed around, he would have won handily. Slow has nothing to do with it. It's the steady part that's key. To make sure that I harness the steady part of this axiom, here are the 9 time hacks that I employ to work efficiently. Hi, I'm Amy, and I make things. And in today's video, I'm making sure that we make the best use of our time. Be sure and watch to the end for bonus number 10. I think it's my favorite. Time hacks, habits, systems. Once you have a system in place, you effectively separate the decision-making and the thinking process from the execution process. Doing that saves you mental and physical energy. You decide one time how you're going to do something, and then you do it that way, by habit, by system, every time thereafter. Time flies when you're having fun, but even when you're not. These are the systems I have in place to make sure that I make good use of my time. Number 1, and it's a doozy, keep your space tidy. Tidy-ish is fine. But if your sewing space looks like this, or this, or even this, you're going to do what I did in that video and close the door and go watch a movie. If you can't get in to feel inspired, if you feel overwhelmed before you start, you'll never start. When you keep things tidy, you never have that issue. Jim Rohn says, things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. I have systems in place. I have an open scrap storage bin, and I sort everything by color when I'm finished cutting. I'll come back to it later and process it, but I can sort it by color and get it off my work table. I create one pile of things that need to be put away, and when it looks treacherous, I take 5 minutes and put everything away. I do these things, I set them aside to deal with all at once, because context switching wastes time. Switching from, oh, I'm finished with that, now I've got to put it away and pull out the next thing, that takes time. So I do everything in batches and I'll put it away all at once. But make sure that you do take the time to put it away. It's when we don't do the easy things when they're easy that they become overwhelming. Number 2, keep your machine clean and in good service. Guys, our machines, which way should I turn? Our machines, they're our workhorse. They're our bread and butter. And if we keep them clean and in good running order, we won't have to go without them for long periods of time when they're at the repair shop, and they'll last us a lifetime. It doesn't matter how fancy or plain your machine is. Keep it clean according to the manufacturer's instructions. Clean, oiled, clean out under that bobbin case every time you change it, guys. Get the little grimies out with the makeup brush or the pipe cleaner, and it'll stay running for a long time. It's recommended that you service it at a shop once a year. I don't do that. I do have it serviced, but honestly, it's about every 3 years, unless there's a problem. But that's what we're trying to avoid by keeping it clean. Number 3, use sharp tools. Guys, this is a box I'm going to stand on. Use a sharp rotary blade. Use a sharp sewing needle, by hand or by machine. Blades, people say blades are so expensive. In the grand scheme of what we spend on quilting, in materials and in time and energy, blades and needles are the cheapest things we buy. Use a new one. It makes all the difference in the world, and it's a safety issue. A dull needle will break in your machine. A dull rotary blade, you're going to have to work harder and press harder, and that's not safe. Guys, change your sewing machine needles. And that will lead me to my hack number 4. Streamline your processes. I piece with the same color thread all the time for everything. My machine came with 5 bobbins. When I run out of the last bobbin, I'll wind 5 more and change my needle and oil my machine. Super simple for me. If that doesn't work for you, make sure you're changing your needle on a regular basis. Guys, it makes a huge difference in time saved trying to figure out why your stitches might be skipping or why your tension might be off. Needles are cheap. Change them often. Another way I streamline processes is I batch tasks. I will cut everything I can for a project, and then I will sew everything I can for a project, or 2 or 3 projects depending on where I am in the process. But do all the sewing I can so I'm sitting at the machine, then move each project to the next process. All those things that I just sewed will get piled up on the ironing board. In fact, there's one back here right now. All the pieces are cut and it's ready to sew, and I'll do all of it at the same time. Then I'll press everything at the same time. Then I'll sew all the blocks, lay it all out, and then sew all the blocks together at the same time, because that's how my brain works. Otherwise, I forget where I am. I forget where I am in which project, so I do large groups of tasks all at the same time. Group like with like and move forward. That leads us to step number 5. Always leave your space ready to do the next thing, or your project ready to do the next thing. So once I get all of these blocks sewn together, I'll put them back on that little tray and I'll just pile it on the ironing table. Then when I come in, I know, oh, I have all those things to iron. I have all those things to press. And they're sitting there waiting for me, reminding me where I need to go next. This is especially useful for those of us who sew on the dining room table, or sew in a tiny spot, sew somewhere in the actual living area of the home, especially if you're putting projects away in boxes and setting them aside. Even if you're setting it aside to work on at a much later time, put a Post-it note in there that tells you where you are and what is the next step. And you don't have to spend time figuring all that out when you open it up again. A little planning saves a lot of time. Number 6, and a much less obvious time hack, is knowing what resources are available to you. You need to baste a quilt, but space, arranging your living space or your workspace such that you can baste a large quilt can be daunting and might not even be possible. But do you have a friend who has space in their basement? Do you have a local shop where you can borrow their classroom or rent space? Can you go to the library and push some tables together in a study room? Using those resources can allow you to baste 2 or 3 quilts in the time it might have taken you to baste just one at home, and without all the hassle of having to rearrange your space or crawl on the floor, hopefully. Do you have to cut 11 billion 2.5-inch squares? Do you have a friend or a guild or a library that has an AccuQuilt cutter? Borrow it. Do you have a friend who has a long arm that they're willing to train you on? I have a friend that used to quilt on my long arm. She paid me in banana bread and her husband sharpened my scissors, and it was amazing. Know what's available to you and also be a resource yourself. Be a resource for other people in your community. Knowing what resources are available to you will not only help you use time efficiently, it can also build friendships and community in the quilty world. Number 7, and this one may have the most impact of all, plan your life around your creativity. If creativity is a priority, if quilting is a priority for you, and you know that your most effective time is first thing in the morning, and you know that that block of time is your most creative, don't schedule your appointments for 9 a.m. Schedule them for 3 o'clock when you don't care what's going on, and that's downtime for you anyway. Capitalize on your most creative time. Here again, a little planning saves a lot of time. I do almost all of my shopping online. My groceries get delivered or picked up curbside. I do Target drive up for household things and pet supplies. Y'all, it's embarrassing how often Amazon is at my house, let me just tell you. And I do this for 2 reasons. Number 1, I hate to run errands. And number 2, I hate to run errands. It's just not a good use of my time when I can spend 15 minutes in my HEB app and they will pick all my groceries for me and I can just drive and pick them up, or better yet, send my adult child to drive and pick them up. Guys, it's genius. Use technology to your advantage in this way. A little more planning and I can plan my meals and cook my basics when I have the time, and then meals are easy to put together all week long, or people can fend for themselves, and I've freed up myself to do what I want to do. Number 8, use a timer. Guys, I use a timer for everything. Get yourself a cute one, but use a timer. I use a timer all the time, and there are 3 reasons. Number 1, it reminds me to get up. I don't know if you've noticed, but I tend to be a bit of an overachiever, and I'll hurt myself sitting in one position for too long. So the timer reminds me, get up, get a drink of water, Move your body, move around the room. Works like a charm too. The second part, using a timer makes me very aware of how long things actually take. Y'all, do you know it only takes like 4.5 minutes to unload the dishwasher? 4.5 minutes. Every time. But also, I know that binding a quilt by machine is going to take me about an hour. Honestly, it doesn't matter what size the quilt is. I haven't quite figured that part out yet, but it's going to take me an hour. Knowing how long something is going to take allows me to plan it into my day and know that when I have an hour, that's when I'll bind that quilt. The timer makes me work faster. I'm super competitive, mostly with myself, also with Casey, but the timer makes me work faster. Maybe not faster, but it makes me work in a more focused manner. It keeps me focused on the task at hand, knowing I'm competing against myself and trying to get this done in a small block of time. Keeps me from messing with these guys. That's useful. Number 9, I learned from my friends in the restaurant industry. It's called full in, full out. In restaurant terms, what it means is you don't come into the kitchen without your arms full of dirty dishes, and you do not leave the kitchen without your arms full of things you need to return to tables. Full in, full out is very useful when you're putting things away, especially if you work in the living space. Because you know, shoes and book bags and kitchen items, things are going to get left in your space. When you get up from your sewing session, take whatever's around you and you carry it and you put it away. When you're coming in from the car and you set things down on the counter, all your new quilty purchases, the next time you go to your sewing space, you gather all that up, you take it with you and you put it away. Or you put it in your stations to put away later, but not too much later. Full in, full out helps keep chaos at bay. And I promise you a bonus number 10, and it's my favorite. Write it down. I write everything down. I make lists. I make lists of lists. I use a daily calendar. I use an online calendar for my YouTube video ideas and production schedule, but I like to write things down. Make a list of your list, break it down again, break it down again. Then, with it written down, you can use your brain for creativity and not for holding all the nitty-gritty details of your daily tasks and things that you need to do. Using the list as your external brain is fantastic. So let's review. Number 1, keep it tidy. Your space and your machine. Number 3, use sharp tools. Number 4, streamline processes and batch tasks. Number 5, leave it ready for the next step. Number 6, know your resources. Number 7, plan life around creativity. Number 8, use a timer. Find a cute one. Number 9, full in, full out. And number 10, my favorite, write it down. There we have it. 10 practical hacks to make your creative time more efficient and hopefully more enjoyable. Time is our most precious resource, and it's passing whether or not we use it effectively. So make every stitch count and own your quilting time. Also, never forget that you make the world more beautiful just by being in it. I'm Amy, and I'll see you next time.